I haven't seen her since this morning, and it's getting late. Oh, and much too dark. Alice! Alice! Oh, how my daughters aggravate my weary nerves. Alice!
Mother, I just saw the...
What?
Aurora Borealis.
Oh, no, dear, we live too far south.
Over Red Chief Mountain.
Now forget about that telescope at once and help me.
But I saw violet ribbons. Oh, so bright and over Red Chief Mountain.
No, my darling dunce. They're called the Northern Lights because they're north. We're going out in search of Emma.
Why do you need me?
Well, what if she's in a spot of danger?
She can hold her own. Unless, of course, she tumbled down and broke her collarbone. Suppose that she's been ambushed and she's...
I'm not amused.
Small wonder she would run away the way we're both abused.
Oh, I wonder who that could be. Oh, thank goodness, Mr. Hildenbrand.
Good evening, Madame Crawford. Are you well?
I am grand. In all regards except just one.
And what could that be?
Emma.
Is she feeling under the weather?
I wish that our dilemma were so very simple. She left with this morning. She didn't even say a word. She didn't even pack a lunch. She just left without a warning.
Her infirm condition, that's outrageous.
I concur. Perhaps you'd like to come with us as we go in search of her?
Of course, I'd be obliged.
Alice! Oh, now really, it's a sin.
The way she disrespects her mother.
Emma, where have you been?
Good evening, Mother. Mr. Hildenbrand, I trust you're well. I saw you there outside. I thought it would be rude to yell your name.
That's so. You thought it'd be rude to yell his name, but I've been yelling yours for hours.
Mother,
When I came from town, I should have noticed you.
I was not in town, for you were coming up the hill as I was coming down.
Our guest must be appalled at your behavior.
I'm relieved to see her safe and sound.
Do you want to know where I've been?
Yes, tell us where you've
You
been.
won't believe me if I tell you.
Tell us anyway.
I just descended Red Chief Mountain.
Oh, my heavens.
That's why I'm so winded.
I would have been happier if you had told me you had been gambling with pirates, not jeopardizing your good health.
I knew you'd be irate, and I don't blame you. I took wanton risk of life and limb. Can you forgive my reckless nature?
Oh, don't ask me. Ask him.
Mother...
Miss Crawford, I'm still in doubt that your daughter went up the hill at all, so I do not have cause to scold her.
You're no help at all.
And I am at a loss to hear your disbelief.
Miss Crawford, you just said yourself that we would not believe you.
So tedious to delve into a conversation's recent past. And must you be so literal?
A product of my caste. We engineers comprise a calculating band of brothers.
Does that include the questioning of feats achieved by others? Mother, you believe me.
Oh, I'm staying out of this. When you two start to quarrel, far away is where my proper place is.
Quarrel?
Mother, you began this quarrel.
I confess.
Do you believe I climbed the mountain?
Anybody's guess.
All right, my doubting Thomas. You and I have advantageous weather at our leisure. You and I shall make the trek together.
Well, that will keep the local gossips busy. Goodness knows.
Did I say something scandalous?
Miss Crawford, you propose a most ungainly time for such a monumental hike.
Young sir, you have my blessings. Take her anywhere you like. Good night, Jack. Good night, Jill.
Good evening.
Never mind the wicked sense of humor.
Pardon?
The years have not been kind.
She's charming.
Which is why you came. And I should not have let her go to bed and leave you stranded.
Ah, but you know it better. You're the one that I've come to see.
I'm pleasantly relieved. And yet it seems more usual that callers are received before the dinner hour.
I'll admit that I've come late. But I was somehow...
Tell me, Wilhelm. Do not hesitate.
It just seems foolish.
What does?
Nothing.
Nothing that mundane, prosaic words can suitably describe.
I simply came to call on you.
You came? But by what force?
Miss Crawford, no. Superstition has no place, where intellect can provide an explanation that is rational, empirical.
Oh, leave it to an engineer to view a miracle beneath a microscope. I should have known a railroad man would disregard phenomena he fails to understand.
From engineer to railroad man, I'm hastily demoted in your merciless esteem.
I never sugarcoated my opinion.
That I know. In every sort of topic, whether politics or art, you make me feel myopic and obtuse.
I do not. You're patronizing me.
I must admit to several times that you've helped me to see the merit of the opposition. Now I, too, respect the cause of preservation.
Oh?
Why shouldn't we protect the natural beauty that surrounds us?
Still, you are inclined to clear so many timbers for a scenic railroad line. Forgive my frankness.
Never. You present it with such grace. And once the tracks are laid, I do expect to see your face upon the summit of Pikes Peak.
I'll never board that train.
Oh, I know that. I meant that you would climb, come snow or rain.
I'd come on foot.
You'd hop on one to prove your fervent zeal.
To greet you.
No, in protestation. I know how you feel about our desecration of that mountain. You'd come dressed like a suffragette or a temperance leader.
How you jest.
And shouting righteous slogans and carrying clever signs. The lips that mix with industry shall never mix with mine.
Hey, that one's not too bad.
It is the gift that I bestow upon your movement.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Tell me though, how would you have me forging through the rain and sleet and snow?
And on one foot.
Precisely, and above the timberline, when I can't climb a single hill. Your sentiments, not mine.
Miss Crawford, I was reticent to
Yes?
believe the story that you told me, not at all to mitigate the glory that you rightfully are due. But if I did believe that you conquered Red Chief Mountain, I would have to be naive enough to think that you were well. In fact, completely freed of any trace of illness.
It's a lovely thought indeed.
A thought in which my stoic mind forbids me take delight. We'd both be fools to let our hopes ascend to such a height. I hope my words have not offended.
Nothing of the kind. However, your sincerity and tenderness remind me of, let's just say, the experience that, well, I could have had I ascended Red Chief Mountain. Would you be so patient as to hear me tell it?
Tell away.
It started with a passage that I read the other day about the mighty winds that blow in cardinal directions. They don't just move clouds along, they offer us protection.
All this time I thought we sought protection from the wind. Forgive me.
Mr. Hildenbrand, it's clear you've never listened to the winds. I mean, with every fiber of your being. You'd be amazed to know the things the wind can bring. The awesome natural forces that so thoughtlessly reduce the tallest trees to twigs can also let us mortals choose the little things that shape our lives and our eternal spirits. But you dismiss each paranormal theory when you hear it.
No, Miss Crawford, when you speak, it matters not your text. Your storytelling makes me wonder what will happen next.
Shall I go on then?
I insist. I simply have to know how you spent your wishes.
Wishes? Goodness, no. The winds do not grant wishes and perform such petty tasks. No, one does not address the winds. One listens, and they ask us what we think. They seek to gain our points of view in matters that concern our fates.
So, what did they ask you?
It started here, on our veranda, just before the sun had reached the window. I thought I'd have a bit of fun and listen for the eastern wind. My heart was not yet in it, till at last I felt vibrations, like the petals of a spinet, where the lowest tones reverberate and send a shiver through your bones. Before too long, I heard the gentle quiver of a voice. It must have been my own, or so I thought, until it called me by my name, a quirk to which I'm not disposed. Well, at this time I didn't care to listen any longer, but when I tried ignoring it, the voice grew even stronger, till at last I knew my response was most imperative.
Response to what?
The eastern wind's insistent and persuasive proposition that I climb the mountain.
Why not just decline?
My mind said no, to which my heart replied, you must. I found it was impossible to disregard the call, so out I went. I barely took the time to fetch my shawl, and as up I went, my ears were full of voices from the past. distant cacophony of voices, till at last...
Congratulations, Emma. You have finally arrived. Upon this sacred mountain crest, your soul shall be revived.
I reached the very top. The noises faded once I closed my weary eyes. Without delay, the eastern wind disclosed its presence with a gentle breeze, a sort of invitation.
Were you there already?
Yes. Imagine my elation when it asked if I'd like to come a second time.
Which must explain your eagerness to make another climb to prove me wrong.
Although we didn't have to go tonight. We may delay our climb until the time is right.
Perhaps you favor warmer weather.
No, an older age. At 68, my diary may need a thrilling page.
I envy your tenacity.
Today's exhilaration, it would seem, has propagated my rejuvenation.
Your newfound enthusiasm is contagious. May only years of frolicsome adventure ever age us.
I accept.
I'm not surprised. You've spent the livelong day accepting every challenge, great or small, that's come your way.
Your estimation of my eagerness is much inflated. When the second question came my way, I hesitated.
Ah, your second wind.
The West, to be exact. Our conversation's topic made me think of you, in fact.
You've piqued my interest.
There I sat, surveying my surroundings. People in the town below ephemeral as groundlings.
So you thought of me?
Not yet. The western wind declared itself by asking me if Red Chief Mountain should be spared the burgeoning expansion of the busy town below.
Of course, the wind already knew you'd never dream of saying no.
You might be pleased to hear that my answer was more subdued. I said as much as possible.
Just what does that exclude?
No houses, no hotels, shan't be plundered, plowed, or mined.
Not even just a little train yard?
Nothing of the kind.
You clarified your answer for the wind, I take it.
No,
Seems you may have left a loophole.
it may well be so.
It also seems the mighty winds may be preoccupied with that which only may concern a certain mountainside. I thought you said the winds were sympathetic, yet I fail to see their sympathetic side. Things they offer pale compared to things concerning average human beings.
True. They didn't speak too much of me, and yet they spoke of you.
I beg your pardon.
Once I knew the western wind had lifted, there I sat, until another wind discreetly drifted towards my ear. It was a warmer wind with southern charms. The dialect disarms a Yankee girl without a fighting chance.
It was flirtatious.
I should say it was, but don't be cross. The gracious wind caressed my blushing cheek, positioning my view at one point in particular.
What point exactly?
You. At 3, or was it 4 o'clock, you stopped to smoke your pipe. Smudge upon the window caught your eye, and when you wiped it clean, you noticed Red Chief Mountain, at which time the thought of me surprised you. Have I blundered?
You have not. I would, however, clarify that you often cross my mind. And furthermore, my dear, your eyes can make an eagle blind, comparatively speaking. Maybe you had some assistance.
Oh?
A telescope could help one see at such a distance.
I only tell you what I witnessed, not how I was able. What's the matter anyhow? You know, it's just a fable after all.
But even men of science aren't uncouth enough to know that every fable hides a grain of truth. Until I've discovered the role I play in this one, Madame Issa, your discussion with the wind is nothing more than gossip.
Patience, Mr. Hildenbrand. I'll tell you what transpired in our discourse. After all, the southern wind inquired of your own potential as a husband.
Husband? Whose?
It's odd that you should ask. The wind would only let me choose your future as a husband, not a word about the bride. I only tell you what occurred, our history aside. I didn't mean to open any wounds.
Who says that you did? I am vexed that you refuse my hand, and yet you refuse to rid yourself of my distinguished company.
I never will.
Though you're the one that brought the subject up tonight, I still expect to hear myself proposing to you yet again. I tell myself that I must hide my wounded pride, but then redundancy is indignation that I am not above.
You speak to me of marriage, but you never speak of... Forgive me, I misspoke.
You didn't end what you began.
I didn't?
Don't be coy. I know your attention span is not as short as that.
Perhaps you have an inclination of my words unspoken.
My depraved imagination runs amok. Maybe you've grown weary of me.
Never!
Or you've found yourself another suitor.
Aren't you clever?
You?
You know very well that I would never marry any man but you. Find my words surprising?
Very.
Splendid.
Why?
Proves to me we all leave words unsaid.
Don't tell me ambiguity is something that you dread. You're known to be ambiguous yourself.
I can't rebut your claim.
Have I left words unspoken?
Yes!
Please, tell me what.
If you don't know already, I won't say.
I should have known as much.
Please tell me why you're grinning so.
You haven't lost your touch. Impossible as ever.
Beg your pardon.
But wait, I've made a breakthrough.
How?
Allow me to evaluate the evidence aloud.
Please do.
You told me that you'd never marry any man but me.
That's true.
But then you couldn't bring yourself to tell me what you told the southern wind in response to its question.
What?
You thought you might offend me.
How?
The southern wind asked you, shall I ever marry?
That's true.
And you said, no, he never shall.
Was that your little breakthrough?
A bit of yes, a dash of no, keeps you undecided.
I must admit, I'm baffled by the logic you've provided. To think I'd be so cruel to make you live a bachelor's life? What right have I denying you the burden of a wife? The truth is, I answered yes.
Well, I'm pleasantly chagrined. And here's a feather for your cap. I'm jealous of the wind.
There, that proves I've opened wounds.
And packed them good with salt.
We're acting foolishly. This is all my fault. I'm toying with your heart. And there's nothing I want less when you're the one to whom I have such longings to confess.
You mean there's more?
There's so much more that dwells within my heart. With all the clamor of the day, we didn't even start to scratch the surface. I want so much more than wild-growing mountaintops and wedding vows. The winds, with all their blowing, never took the time to ask me what I really want.
Well, that's because they know that I'm your rightful confidant. And you must tell me every word, omitting not a phrase.
It started when we lived in Boston, long before the days of my condition. Mother played piano, as did I. Though she had more intrinsic talent, I would always try to emulate her. She gave students lessons through the day, but I received the most attention. Often she would say I'd perform in public concerts by the age of 10. Well, really, I was 12, but it was just so thrilling then. The audience applauded warmly. I can hear them still. So gay it was. I wanted to conceal that I was ill, but one day I just couldn't play. Mother spent her time presenting me to specialists. In fact, the reason I'm alive today is that she sold each part and parcel we could spare, moved out west where I could breathe the unpolluted air. She left so many things back east, society and wealth. So did Alice, bless her heart, and all to save my health. Such selfless acts of sacrifice were made, and I regret that I may never live to give the grace I freely get. You're silent. I don't blame you. Look at me as I unfurl my heart to you. I must appear like a silly girl.
Miss Crawford, at this moment, I'm clay at your disposal. Thank you for assuring me that each of my proposals was well worth making, though each one an act of subjugation. What I have learned from you tonight has been my highest education.
Now I'm feeling bashful. We should quickly change the subject, else I blush.
Which suits me fine, because you've been neglected to tell me of your conversation with the northern wind. Oh, come now. All four must have their role in your tale before it can end.
You needn't humor me. I know how cynical you are.
You may as well divulge the rest. I've waited it this far.
If you insist, I'll tell you what transpired, though I fear that you're apt to disapprove of that which you're about to hear.
I'll be the judge of that.
The air was absolutely still, and yet I grabbed my scarf because I felt a sudden chill. As I began to tie a knot, it filled up like a sail and wrapped around a branch where it was carried by a gale. Before I could untangle it, the north wind seized my hand. My senses and my faculties were in the wind's command. Whereas the north wind's counterparts would whisper what they said, the northern wind transcended words and spoke to me instead in thoughts already fully formed and tempered with emotion. The spoken word is but a brook, and this was like the ocean. The question draped my body like an early autumn frost. To translate what I felt, I fear that words are at a loss. It showed to me a darkness that was infinitely vast. To enter it, a spirit has to disavow its past. The black, uncharted mystery evoked a sense of awe, which turned to dread when my deliberation had to draw to its conclusion. So I thought.
You didn't have to choose?
I don't recall that I accepted, nor did I refuse.
But what was being asked of you? You haven't told me that.
Would I embrace the darkness?
I'm afraid to know just what that might entail.
That is my sentiment as well.
Is the darkness evil? Is it death?
I wish I could tell you what the darkness represents, but as I said before, the north wind was by far the most elusive of the four.
You don't recall how you responded?
Now it's coming back. It bid me not to answer for the moment, and the black formation drifted.
To return again?
I know it will, but for the moment it moved on and left me on the hill.
How will you respond when it returns?
I do not know. I only knew with certainty that it was time to go.
And what about your scarf?
Oh, drat! I knew I would forget it. Oh, such is life. It is an insignificant regret.
The only one you've had today?
I'd say that is correct. From start to end, I felt the strange affair was somehow perfect, even though I also felt the venture was unwise. Just now you saw me acquiesce when Mother criticized my reckless actions. I don't blame her. She has taken pains to save my health. And if she found that her efforts were in vain, I'd think myself a most ungrateful daughter, a disgrace. Her voice pursued me down at my accelerated pace. I heard her warning under my own breath. She scolded me for tempting fate, courting early death, and nodding in agreement with the gravestones, all in rows that line the graveyard wall. Oh, how my apprehension grows to such a fever pitch when I so much as think about a place so wrought with death. Alas, there was no other route. When I was coming up the hill, I didn't even give a thought to where I was. I noticed not a single grave.
You've mentioned that you dislike graveyards.
Wilhelm promised me that should I meet untimely death, my resting place will be as far away from Boneyard as a resting place can get.
You needn't speak of such unpleasant
You
things.
forget how truly close to death I came when I took ill last spring.
That's all behind us
Don't
now.
dismiss me.
You never bring the subject up again if I agree to your request.
That is fair enough.
Then, I'll make sure your body's laid to rest on top of Red Chief Mountain.
There's no need to be absurd.
I challenge you to find a better place to be interred.
All right. The garden. Never mind, it's but a postage stamp. Our relatives in Boston own some land. No, far too damp. You're laughing.
Oh, I imagine the winds found you amusing.
Why?
Oh, you have a funny way about you in choosing your own destiny. Or mine, depending on the case.
The fault is yours. You dared me to find a better place to spend eternity.
And should you ever find a better spot, you'll have to tell me all about it in a letter.
I'll tell you about it in person.
Don't you dare leave me in suspense. I'm counting on your letters to relieve the Eastern pretense.
Oh, of course. You're off to New York City soon. It slipped my mind.
But I'll return to Manitou in no time.
You must find time to write me back.
Miss Crawford, I would never dream of doing otherwise.
Is this our last goodbye? It seems so sudden.
This goodbye is not our last. Just the same, goodbye.
You're always welcome here.
I'm always glad I came. Your absence has already left me longing for your touch.
Someday, Mr. Hildenbrand, you'll tell me just how much.